You just parked, the engine's off, the garage is quiet, and you're sitting there, both hands still on the wheel, staring at the wall in front of you. You ran a great meeting today. You made the right call. People nodded. People agreed. Someone even said, "Great work." But instead of feeling proud, you feel sick. Because any minute now, you're convinced someone is going to tap on your car window and they're going to say the words you've been dreading to hear your whole career. We made a mistake. We don't know how you got here, but you don't belong. If you've ever felt that way, even once, you're not broken, you're not weak, and you're certainly not alone. We're going to dive into the Imposter Syndrome on this episode of Engage and Inspire. Welcome back to the Engage and Inspire podcast. I am your host, Scott Liles, and today we're doing something a little different. We're not talking about leadership theory. We're not talking about KPIs or agile framework. We're talking about the voice inside your head that whispers, "You're a fraud." This episode is called The Confidence Paradox, and by the time we're done, you'll never look at self-doubt the same way again. In this episode, you'll learn why 62% of leaders feel like imposters. Yes, you heard that right. I said 62%. You'll learn why the promotion that was supposed to fix your confidence actually made it worse. And the one counterintuitive trait that makes doubting leaders more trusted than arrogant ones. So take a deep breath, grab your notepad, put your phone down if you can, and let's dive into it. All right, let's jump in our time machine and let me take you back to 1978. Jimmy Carter was president, the first Garfield comic strip is published, and two clinical psychologists, Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes, are about to change how we think about success. They were working with a group of high-achieving women who had PhDs. They were professors, executives, women who had every external credential that you could ask for. And yet, these women were convinced that they were about to be, quote, found out. Clance and Imes called it the imposter phenomenon. And at first, they thought it was specific to high-achieving women. Well, they were wrong. Now, fast forward to 2025, a massive study published in BMC Psychology reviewed 30 separate studies. Combined, those studies followed more than 11,000 working professionals. These were doctors, engineers, teachers, middle managers, and even CEOs. Now, what were the findings? 62%. 62% of professionals, nearly 2 out of 3, reported feeling like imposters at some point in their career. Now, let me say this because it's important. You who are listening right now, you are in the statistical majority. Now, here's where it gets really interesting and a little painful. Most people assume imposter syndrome is a junior problem. You know, the new hire, the recent grad, the person who just got their first big title. We tell ourselves, once I get that promotion, once I have the corner office, once I've been in the role for a year, I'll finally feel like I belong. But that's not what the data says. A 2025 study from the Informing Science Institute looks specifically at senior leaders. We're talking directors, VPs, members of the C-suite, and they found something disturbing. When a junior employee feels imposter syndrome, they might keep their head down, work a little harder, stay quiet in meetings. Is it annoying? Sure, but it's not catastrophic. But when a leader feels imposter syndrome, That's a little different. The study found 3 specific destructive behaviors. First, risk aversion. You stop placing those bold bets. You stop innovating. You play not to lose instead of playing to win. Second, decision paralysis. You wait for more data. You ask for one more meeting. You delay, delay, delay because you're terrified of being wrong. And third, overcompensation. You work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. You answer emails at midnight. You tell yourself, if I just work everyone else under the table, they won't figure out I don't belong. And here's the cruel irony. Your team is watching you do this, and they think, if my leader has to grind like that to be successful, maybe I'm supposed to burn out too. So no, imposter syndrome is not a junior problem. It is a leadership crisis. And most of us are handling this crisis the wrong way. Where do you find the perfect shirt to rep your favorite band and your hometown team? Whether you're a Deadhead, a Metallica fanatic, or live for NBA playoff season, stop searching. Welcome to oldglory.com, the ultimate family-owned superstore since 1969. We're talking over 300,000 officially licensed items. That's graphic tees, hoodies, hats, and accessories for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture. If you're a music lover, grab an iconic album art cover from Bob Marley, the Beatles, the Grateful Dead, the Rolling Stones. Every genre, every legend. Sports fanatic? Deck yourself out in official gear from the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and NCAA jerseys, hats, and the works. Plus, movies, TV shows, and quirky gifts you won't find anywhere else. And here's the kicker. Free standard shipping on every order. Same-day processing, fast, reliable, just like your loyalty to your team. Need the perfect gift for the fan who has everything? Well, that's Old Glory. But don't go yet. I've arranged the highest exclusive discount for my listeners. Go to oldglory.com and use my promo code HELM, that's HELM, at checkout for 15% off. That's oldglory.com. Officially licensed, unforgettable style. All right, now let's get into the psychology because I want you to understand something very important. You're not crazy. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Now, there's a concept called the curse of expertise. It sounds backwards, but stay with me here. When you're new to a field, you see things in black and white. There's a right answer and a wrong answer. You learn the rules, you follow the rules, you feel good. But as you gain expertise, that real, deep expertise, you start to see the gray. You realize that every decision has a trade-off. Every strategy has a blind spot. Every right answer depends on context. Now, Lauren Sanders, who's a fantastic L&D strategist, put it this way. The more you know what you don't know. Now, watch what happens when you get promoted. Your scope widens. You are now responsible for things you've never personally done. Marketing, finance, legal, HR. Suddenly you're in meetings where people use acronyms you have to Google afterwards. And yes, we've all done that, including myself. Your brain interprets this uncertainty as incompetence. But there's a twist. The twist that might actually change your life. Researchers at MIT conducted a study that completely upends how we talk about imposter syndrome. They look at imposter thoughts and interpersonal effectiveness. Basically, how well people work with others, how well they build trust and lead teams. You would expect more doubt equals less trust, right? Well, you're wrong. They found that people who reported more imposter thoughts were actually rated by their supervisors as more interpersonally effective and more trustworthy. Now, let me read you that quote again because it's more important than that. More imposter thoughts equals more trustworthy. Now, why is that? Because doubt makes you curious. Doubt makes you ask better questions. Doubt makes you listen before you speak. The leader who quietly worries that they don't know enough, that leader walks into a room and says, "What am I missing? What do you see that I don't?" The overconflicted leader walks into a room and says, "Here's the answer. Next question." So here's the truth. The data is screaming at us. Your imposter syndrome is not a weakness. It's a hidden asset. The problem isn't the feeling. The problem is hiding the feeling. The problem is letting it freeze you instead of fuel you. Okay, knowing that doubt can be useful is comforting, but comfort doesn't create change. Actual action does. So let me give you a 4-step process. It's called RISE. Now, Lauren Sanders developed it, and it's backed by the same 2025 research that I've been quoting. Now, RISE stands for Recognize, Interpret, Shift, Experiment. And we'll walk through each one like we're doing it together. Okay? Now, step 1 is recognize the thought. Most of us don't notice our imposter voice. We just feel bad and assume the feeling is true. But feelings are not facts. So here's your job. Catch the thought in the act. You just finished a presentation. You nailed 95% of it, but you stumbled on one sentence. And now instead of celebrating, you're replaying that stumble on a loop in your head over and over and over again. So what you do is you pause. Say out loud. Yes, you actually have to say it out loud. "I'm having an imposter thought." Try it with me right now. Just whisper if you need to. "I'm having an imposter thought." See, you just separated you from the thought. It's that easy. That's step 1. Now, step 2 is interpret. You're going to interpret the story you're telling yourself. Imposter syndrome is not just a feeling, it's a narrative, a story with a plot. It says, "I don't belong. I got lucky. Any minute now, they're going to find out that I don't belong here." Now, your job is to rewrite that story. Let's say you're in a meeting and someone uses an acronym that you don't know. The imposter story says, "You're stupid. Everyone else knows this. You don't belong here." But here's a different interpretation. It says, "I'm the leader who prioritizes accuracy over ego. I'd rather learn than pretend." It's the same situation, just a completely different emotional outcome. Interpretation changes everything. Now, step 3 is shift. You're going to shift your behavior from defensive to curious. Now, this is where the magic happens. A 2025 study on Spanish female executives called this transforming the torture into a blessing. When you feel doubt, your instinct is to protect yourself, talk more, prove yourself, fill the silence. But the data says the opposite works better. Instead of trying to prove you're the smartest person in the room, shift to asking, "What am I missing? What does the team see that I don't?" That single question does 3 things. It gets you better information, it makes your team feel valued, and it short circuits your imposter spiral. And finally, step 4, experiment. You don't have to transform your whole leadership style overnight. Just run one small experiment. Go into your next one-on-one with a direct report and say something like, "I've been wrestling with this decision. I don't have it all figured out yet, but what is your perspective?" It feels terrifying, doesn't it? I know. But here's what the research says. Vulnerability is the antidote to perfectionism. I'll say that again. Vulnerability is the antidote to perfectionism. When you admit a small uncertainty, you don't look weak. You look human, and humans follow humans, not robots. Now, frameworks are great, but I'm a big believer in actually doing. So let me give you 3 specific actions that you can start doing tomorrow. Now, action 1 is the stop competency hoarding. Okay. So when you feel like a fraud, your instinct is to hold on tighter. You think, if I want this done right, I have to do it myself. That's called competency hoarding, and it's a trap because the more you do yourself, the more you prove you're indispensable. But you also prove that you don't trust your team and you burn yourself out. PA consulting research showed that leaders who use their strengths only 20% of the time actually have higher well being. Now let that sink in. You don't have to be on all the time. So, your assignment this week is to identify one task that you're holding on to because you're afraid you're the only one who can do it. Delegate it, pass it out to someone else. Even if it's imperfect, even if it's scary, delegate it. Now, action number 2 is to create a success log. Now, I know success log sounds like something from a cheesy corporate retreat. I get it. But here's the science behind it. The Midwest Journal of Education study found that one core symptom of imposter syndrome is the inability to relish successful outcomes. So you get a win, your brain says, that was luck. You get a promotion, your brain says, well, they really didn't see the real me. The only way to fight that is with data. Hard, objective data. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get a notebook or use the Notes app on your phone, and then every single day, write down one win. It doesn't have to be a huge win. It can be a small one. Something like, I handled that client email well, or I helped a teammate solve a problem. I asked a good question in the meeting. Something small. The next time the imposter voice shows up before a big presentation or a board meeting, open that log. You can't argue with data, especially when it's in black and white right there in front of you. And finally, action 3, name the narrative out loud. This is the most powerful one, and it's the hardest, okay? The worst part of imposter syndrome isn't the doubt itself. It's the isolation. You think you're the only one. You think everyone else has their act together, but they don't. They're just better at hiding it than you are. As a leader, you set the culture. If you pretend to be perfect, your team will exhaust themselves trying to be perfect too. So try this. In your next meeting, say something like, I don't have the full picture here yet. I feel the weight of that. Let's problem solve it together. Now that sentence changes everything. Not because it's fancy, but because it's real. And real leaders inspire real loyalty. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought. The 62% statistic is only scary if we stay silent. If you are in that majority, and statistically you are, then you are in excellent company. The research is clear. Doubt does not disqualify you. It humanizes you. Think about the best leader you ever worked for, the one who made you feel safe, the one who asked for your opinion, the one who said, I don't know, but let's figure it out together. That leader wasn't pretending to have all the answers. That leader was brave enough to admit they don't. You earned your seat at the table, not because you're perfect, not because you never make mistakes, because you care enough to worry about getting it right. And that, right there, is exactly what makes you a leader worth following. Now, if this episode hit home for you, do me a favor. Send it to one person on your team or one of the peers that you trust. Just text them, hey, listen to this and let's talk about it afterwards. Because the only way to break the silence is to break it together. Until next time, remember, keep engaging and keep inspiring. Take care.